Good evening, and welcome to the inaugural CHCI Pitch Competition, COVID-19 Recovery Investment Program. My name is Marco Davis, and I am the President and CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute. I certainly wish we could be kicking off this first-of-its-kind event in person, connecting with each other as we prepare to listen to remarkable pitches from Latino leaders who have secured local business growth, founded or developed nonprofits, and led Latino communities as young changemakers, focusing their efforts on COVID-19 recovery, all during this time of great hardship for the nation. But I'm nonetheless thrilled to be with you remotely. I'd like to acknowledge the support we've received from our pitch competition sponsors, especially Bank of America, Constellation Brands Inc., State Farm, and Toyota, for understanding, supporting, and agreeing with us about the importance and value of competitions like these. While tonight's event is a testament and a celebration of the Latino hardworking and determined spirit, we must also take a moment to reflect on and recognize the loss of life, the hundreds of businesses that have closed around the country, and the thousands of jobs that have disappeared due to this global crisis. Latino communities have been disproportionately impacted by the spread of COVID-19. Nevertheless, leaders within these communities have harnessed the power of innovation and urgency to meet the needs of the crisis head-on. Through resilience and grit, these leaders have persevered to build solutions that address the pandemic in their communities and beyond. We also know that COVID-19 isn't the only thing stopping us from reaching our fullest entrepreneurial potential, and yet we carry on. Latino small business owners are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the U.S., even as we battle systemic racism that has resulted in lower incomes and for wage workers and exorbitant loan rates. According to a recent study from Stanford University, over the past 10 years, the number of Latino business owners grew 34% compared to 1% for all business owners in the United States. And more Latinos than ever are applying for small business loans to launch or grow their operations. Clearly, we've been doing something right. Latino-owned businesses and Latino-led ideas were increasing and thriving prior to the global COVID-19 pandemic. We believe it is imperative that we do what we can as an organization that seeks to transform lives by shifting paradigms to ensure this progress is not lost. Due to the economic hardship everyone is living, our nonprofits and other structural supports in our neighborhoods are truly being tested. Our young changemakers are taking to the streets to challenge and shift old systems and ways of thinking, while also simultaneously attempting to find innovative ways to solve our community's most pressing problems. Unfortunately, many of the individuals with formal leadership titles in today's society do not reflect the breadth and diversity of the American people. The neglect of underserved communities' experiences in the product or service development process means that their needs are omitted in the final outcome. That is one reason why here at CHCI we felt the need to create this pitch competition. This effort is about highlighting those on the ground from the private sector, the nonprofit realm, and the young and inspired, motivated individuals doing the hard work necessary to create economic opportunity with mission and purpose for themselves and their community. Supporting the ideas of people of color in today's economy is so important, and creating opportunities like these for Latino-inspired ideas to get the recognition they deserve and monetary support they need in order to scale and thrive is critical. Now let me introduce the pitching process, judging rules, and our pitch competition judges. In August, in preparation for this exciting night, we began collecting and reviewing applications from applicants throughout the country. Participants had an opportunity to compete in one of three categories: entrepreneurship, nonprofit, and young changemaker. The entrepreneurship track was open to any Latino entrepreneur, Latino-led small business that pivoted or shifted their business model to help address the current crisis in the Latino community and sustain or grow their company venture or disrupt the industry. The nonprofit track was open to any nonprofit organization that had pivoted or shifted their offerings to help address the current crisis in the Latino community due to COVID-19. The last category, my personal favorite, The Young Changemakers track was established for anyone from the age of 16 to 30 with an innovative idea addressing COVID-19 directly, even if they had not yet formalized it into an organization or business. We compiled those applications, and after careful consideration via a rigorous process, our group of reviewers and judges have selected the finalists that we're going to hear from tonight. I want to thank every one of the reviewers and also our panel of judges for being here tonight with us to offer their valuable insights, comments, and questions to each applicant and for helping us select our winners. At the end of this event, our distinguished panel of judges will select one winner from each category, who will each receive $5,000, useful resources, as well as access to mentors for their project. Feel free to support the pitches you like on social media to give them added visibility and recognition, and don't forget to use our hashtag CHCIHHM20. I'd now like to introduce tonight's panel of judges. We have Danielle Campos, Senior Vice President, ESG Group Program Director at Bank of America. Jorge A. Lopez, Senior Environmental Health and Safety Manager, Constellation Brands Incorporated. Sebastian Ontiveros, National Director, Multicultural Business Alliance and Strategy Group, and Senior Manager, Consumer Engagement at Toyota. And Danielle Reyes, Executive Director, the Crimson Bridge Foundation. Also, Efrain Gonzalez Jr., Associate Director of the Office of Business Development, Minority Business Development Agency at the U.S. Department of Commerce. Thank you, judges, for your time and effort. I, like many of you, look forward to hearing these pitches. Some of you may have friends or family pitching tonight. Send them love, and we wish them all the very best. We'll start with the entrepreneurship track first, then the nonprofit track, and we'll end with the Young Changemakers track. Judges, over to you.
My name is Danielle Campos, and it's really wonderful to be here with you tonight, this evening, to really listen from Latino leaders from across the country who are bringing ideas and innovative ideas and through entrepreneurship, through their nonprofit efforts. And I'm clearly excited to be also with my esteemed colleagues on this panel because it is the inaugural competition. It's so great that CHCI has provided a forum firsthand, to learn again from Latino leaders who are working on the front lines and again helping our communities recover from the crisis. Even before COVID-19, low-wage unemployment and unemployed Latino families did not have enough financial backing I should say financial resources to fall back on. And the wealth gap has widened even more as a result of the virus and the economic crisis. So family prosperity is more urgent than ever, and it's a moment for profound innovation. So we need to be intentional in our support of entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders who are on the front lines and providing services to families impacted by the pandemic. So we're all here this evening. We're coming together again to provide access and opportunity for you and for our communities and to invest in programs and ideas, again, that provide leaders the capital and structures to exercise these access opportunities. So great to be in front of the leaders today. I should have introduced myself. Bank of America. I'm a program director for the Charitable Foundation and serve on our ESG team. So thanks for the opportunity.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jorge Lopez, and I'm the Senior Environmental Health and Safety Manager for Constellation Brands for our Wine and Spirits Division. I'm just so excited to see all you leaders present all your innovative ideas and creations, and as well as the development and implementations of new products and ideas, especially during this hardship in our COVID-19 pandemic to help especially our communities. Again, I'm honored to be here with such a diverse group of leaders, so excited to hear everything.
Thanks, Jorge. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sebastian Ontiveros, and I'm the National Director for Multicultural Consumer Engagement with Toyota Motor North America. And thank you, CHCI, for putting this together, this inaugural pitch competition. I think it's very timely, and it's such an important topic to discuss and to see the talent in our own community and be able to showcase that at such a time of crisis and a time of need. So congratulations to you all for getting to this level and for all your accomplishments thus far. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you guys are doing to make our world a more inclusive place.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle Reyes. I'm the executive director of the Crimson Bridge Foundation. We're a private philanthropic foundation that was founded by and is led by Latinas. So I am very excited to be here because I happen to be an entrepreneur of both a nonprofit and a small business. I know it takes a lot of hard work, not just passion and commitment. So I'm really eager to hear what you all are going to present in your pitches this evening.
And good evening. I'm Efrain Gonzalez Jr., and I serve as the Associate Director in the Office of Business Development at the U.S. Department of Commerce's Minority Business Development Agency. We are the only federal agency exclusively dedicated to the growth and competitiveness of minority businesses across the country. And it's a great pleasure to be with you here today. I'm excited to be a part of this pitch competition, the inaugural pitch competition at that, especially during Hispanic Heritage Month. I can't thank CHCI for bringing us all together and giving us an opportunity to listen to you, the future leaders that are going to make an impact and change our world. So thank you, great to be with you, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Hi, my name is Wendy Ramirez, and I'm the founder of Inti Malena. How can I help the children of farm workers? That's the question that I asked myself. I live in California, and right now we're seeing the wildfires spread, yet we see the images of farm workers still in the fields picking the fruit that we eat every day. A lot of them are undocumented. A lot of them work for below minimum wage. They're breaking their backs. And why do they sacrifice? Why do they do all of this? And it's for their children, for their children to have a better opportunity for the future. But distance learning is a challenge for all families, including our own families. Teaching our kids virtually has been a big challenge. And so together with my friend who's a teacher in these communities, I asked her, what can we do? How can we help the children? And we came up with creating learning kits for the children that they could do away from the screen, away from the TV, something that sparks their creativity, that brings them joy, that gives them an outlet to express themselves. With COVID, with everything that's going on. And so we picked 3 categories: science, art, and literature. And we're creating these kits that we will deliver to, we're starting 1 school at a time in McFarland, California, and we will be delivering 500 kits. The kits approximately, will include instructions for the activities and all the supplies that are needed. And they're approximately $32. So with the $5,000 investment or contribution, we could commit to buying 250 of them. The rest is going to be, raised through Inti Malena. Like I said, it's a fashion brand. So we invest some of that money into buying product and selling it. And 50% of that would go to cover the other 250 kids, or even more, because we already have and are hearing demand from other teachers in other schools in the Central Valley. I'm confident that I can achieve this because I have an amazing team working with me, like I mentioned, teachers from the community. And I also have one of my team members here, Jackie Rodriguez, who is coordinating a lot of our partnerships and all our social media. So I want to give her an opportunity to talk a little bit about the project. Unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Wendy. We're taking the model from Inti Malena, where she's contributing 50% back to the campaign and using it with other Latinx artists, authors, educators. We launched the campaign yesterday, and I already have several Latinx publishers donating books and artists donating art to help us fundraise. And it's really just knowing who we're supporting and the intention behind it. And so everyone's really on board because it's just imagining what we can do if we showed up for these kids. Thank you. If you all have any questions, I think the time's running, so you can feel free to ask us anything you'd like.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for that. That's amazing. Being in California, I can appreciate the work the work that you're doing, particularly in McFarland. In terms of the kids, have you worked with schools in the geography? Are you working with other nonprofit partners? I mean, how are you determining how the kids will get to the hands of the kids, and which are you working again through schools or through other nonprofit partners?
We're working through schools and also are partnering up with nonprofits that are also going to provide support. I started my career as an elementary school teacher, and I continue to teach every day in my life. So I'm also partnering with teachers though in that community. We're starting with McFarland, but like I mentioned, we already have a request from Arvin. So other areas around Bakersfield. We're based in Southern California. So we're going to put these kids together ourselves, and we're going to drive them and distribute them from the schools.
Any other questions from the judges?
I just got one. There's 59 seconds, but I kind of heard part of the answer already, but I wanted to ask, how would you keep your momentum going? Is it just focused on Southern California, McFarland area, or what's the plan for expansion or continue that?
It's one school at a time is the model. So basically, we're focused on 550 kids right now. We know exactly how many kids are in that school, what their grade levels are. And then there's another school that we've identified. So we're doing it one school at a time, and just, contributing what we can and what we feel we can bring to the area with COVID and the ability to travel. But we definitely think that this is possible.
You mentioned that you're doing this along with your fashion brand. How long have you been in business in that area?
I've been in business with my fashion brand for 5 years. Actually, when COVID hit, I changed to doing masks, and I changed my business model to donate 50% of that. And I actually raised $4,000 and over $5,000 and donated it to the Farm Workers COVID Relief 19 Fund. And so, yes, I have, I actually have seen a lot of growth during COVID with the fashion brand and with just adopting this new business model, which is 50-50.
Thank you.
How would you like to increase your lifespan? We can help you do just that. Gamify Health makes learning about your health, improving your health fun, because we put it in a game form. With over 9 out of 10 Hispanics already playing games, we meet Hispanics to where they are already in the language in which they understand in Spanish and English. Gamify Health was created by myself, a physician, as well as a CPA and a game developer. We started out by doing informed interviews with teens, who was going to be our primary market, because we were developing a game to identify depression in teens, teen mind games. Depression in teens, it goes half of the time untreated because it's not diagnosed, it's not screened. And with Latinos, it's even more important to identify it early on. So while we were developing teen mind games, COVID came along, and we thought, let's start with a quicker game, which is COVID Blast. COVIDblast.com, it empowers Latinos, anybody who plays a game, on what they can do right now to prevent the coronavirus infection. And we take what is on the coronavirus.gov website and we put it in the form of a game. We've had over 1,000 people play our games, and we've had people sign up to be on our interest list. We've proven that gaming and learning about your health can be fun. So now we're taking it to the next level and going back to teen mind games. We have, as I mentioned, done over 100 interviews with not only teens, but teachers. And now we are ready to expand our market to target a subscription level platform, premium for patients, and for payers, it's going to be a premium level at $350 a month. So the potential is huge, because there are over 150 million people with chronic disease in the United States. So the market and the opportunity to really expand and improve the health of not just everyone, but in particular Latinos, is right there with Gamify Health. And we're going to be starting off next with Teen Mind Games. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much for that. I understand gaming and access and the virtual world, but I'm trying to in terms of your idea and offering, is it the mental health piece? Is it the connection piece? What are you trying to solve, and what's the problem we're trying to solve with this app?
The problem so it's a game, and yes, the FDA would consider it an app because I've looked into that already. But the problem we're trying to solve is diagnosis in teens, so decrease problems in terms of missing school. More importantly, decrease in suicide for the physician, and that's for the family immediately. For the provider, it is the ability to screen for depression. Team Mind Games is also going to be providing information on resiliency, mindfulness, and managing stress. And more importantly, for the health payer, for Medicaid, if they are the payer, it's going to decrease hospitalization, decrease chronic appointments that oftentimes aren't even related to mental health, but that's the excuse in terms of getting help. So the opportunity really to improve personally on a health system and on a national payer level is there. That's the problem we're trying to solve right now with Team Mind Games, and you can apply that to all of the other games that we will be developing.
What's the age range that you're targeting?
So it's teens. So the teens.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So teenagers. So starting 13.
Me, maybe I can.
Right, 13, 19. But that's not to say that anybody who is not a teen can't play it, because the depression screening is standard and it's just focusing on formats that teens enjoy, and that's gaming, and more importantly, it's driving. So for the Toyota representative there, it is learning how to drive a car using that experience that a lot of teens are going through in their adolescence.
With Wi-Fi and data usage being limited for many Latino families and youth, how will you address that so that your application can be used by those who might need it most?
So there's two levels in terms of availability. There's the freemium model that we're looking at, and that can be accessed by the public. As you know, there's a lot of work that's already being done right now with in terms of increasing accessibility. But the targeted market in terms of revenue is going to initially be based for the healthcare provider. So in the healthcare provider's office, it will be made available, and so that's what the focus is. Obviously, as it expands, the availability not only will be there for those with, who are trying to get more internet. There's a lot of initiatives in terms of mobile hotspots that are happening. All of that is going to stand to benefit the use of apps and our gaming.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vanessa from Bilinguify, and I'm helping Latinx parents feel the joy and fun of raising bilingual kids. So let me first tell you about my friend Laura, who I know because we sent our kids to the same Spanish immersion school. And then COVID-19 happened and our school shut down. Many Spanish immersion programs did, and all of a sudden Laura and I and many other parents were in charge of 100% of our kids' Spanish. So I've talked with lots of parents in this country who would love to raise bilingual kids, but they just feel overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. They can't add one more thing to the to-do list. So I created Bilinguify, which is a 21-day online experience to help parents who are struggling to make Spanish happen feel inspired and creative about speaking Spanish at home. And we do that through, building a strategy and helping them connect to kids, and especially celebrating cultura. We have so far run the program once. We had 35 students in June. It sells for $97, and I'm actually opening it again tomorrow. So there are 13.3 million Hispanic families in the U.S. 85% say they do speak Spanish at home. So even, not accounting for all the ones that don't have little kids, that's still 4.5 million families that we could really serve here in the U.S. So far, we've been reaching them through content marketing, through social media, but we'll be focusing on paid ads and an affiliate program that we're really excited about. Bilinguify incorporates many aspects of resources that are available already, but it's the only program that empowers parents to speak Spanish, naturally, make it joyful, no worksheets or flashcards required. So today, I would ask that you please share this program with families that you think could use it. Our biggest wish is to empower parents to go from struggling to make Spanish happen to joyfully bilingual family. Because as my abuelita always used to say, quien habla dos idiomas vale por dos. Thank you so much for your consideration. I will take your questions now.
Are you currently working with other partners as far as your program? And then if you could just explain to me if there's a cost to families, or is there an application, or is it more like a shared resource online?
I think your first question you kind of put out a little bit was I working with partners?
Yes. Are you currently working with any partners?
I'm not working with any partners now. I would love to in the future. And it is a paid program for families. So the cost is $97 for the 3-week program.
I wanted to ask if I could real quick. Right now there's kind of a captivated audience with COVID-19 and people working from home or homeschooling. How do you see meeting that challenge once those social bars are kind of lifted in terms of making sure that you're reaching that audience that you're aiming to connect with?
This is a little bit different than a homeschooling program. So it's not necessarily like schooling per se. It's more about integrating Spanish into just everyday family life and really finding the resources to make Spanish at home like natural, not like we're going to sit down and study it. So I had thought of this before COVID-19 happened, but it just so happened that we were all home more and it seemed like an appropriate time to introduce it. But really it's meant to be like a lifelong, just building it into daily life,
Vanessa, this is Efrain. I have a question for you. What is your anticipation for the use of the funds?
Well, we're really just to grow our reach. So like I said, an opening enrollment, soon. So I will be using them to expand like the paid social media advertising that we can do, potentially to decrease the cost of the program at some point in the future. That would be ideal also.
Thank you.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from parents who don't see themselves as the primary educator of their child?
I think that's most of the parents that took the course actually, and the feedback was that it was really helpful, really great, that it helped them, think about education maybe in a little different way than they had before, and helped them see themselves as an educator, whereas before it was more like, I'll send you to school so that somebody who's trained can do this, Good feedback so far.
Great.
I am LT Ladino Bryson. I am the CEO and founder of vcandidates.com. We are a new SaaS career platform like no other. As you can see, COVID really hit the Hispanic Americans with the unemployment rate up to 18 to 20%. This is undeniably horrific. At our platform, we're looking to help the Hispanic community by providing them and to make sure they're not underserved with career development. You see, most career platforms actually focus on job search or the jobs itself. We actually focus on that development through an online 9-step career platform in which every job seeker is able to learn purpose and vision, how to clean up their social media, and how to interact with recruiters as a whole. Our goal is to take the onus off of job seeking and actually put it on that career development so that everyone can be the best job seeker possible, changing them from a job seeker to a viable candidate. Now, how we do this is this. Very simply, we surveyed over 3,000 candidates and found that there were so many wounds. They were looking for people that cared when they were laid off. They wanted to know that they could manage more communication during the hiring process, as well as making sure that they had a way to track the process. So we created that. I have an amazing team. I personally am known as the employment therapist. I've been seen since since May, over 250 times about job and career searches, as well as we're looking to utilize this grant to help market to the Hispanic communities. Again, I'm LT Ladino Bryson, CEO and founder of vcandidates.com.
Thanks, LT. In terms of the placement and the career skills is critical, but we also know that jobs are scarce right now. I mean, are there industries and companies that you're working with that have committed to maybe employing some of your candidates?
Absolutely. What we're working with is actually the recruiting professionals. See, what's happened is that people are not posting jobs. They're going to recruiters to say, help us find these candidates and make sure they're buttoned up. What we do is we actually have the candidates, they're able to present personality assessment, reference checks, background checks, everything to be more competitive when they're presenting themselves. Instead of just a resume, they're getting a full understanding of who this candidate is before hiring. And something else we do very uniquely is that we are working with employers. Just as COBRA is inserted into a severance package, we're working with them so that they can give a 90-day subscription to our site. So as they're transitioning their workforce, they're being empathetic, they're helping them move forward. And our goal is to work, it's going to take a while, but to work so that we can make this type of process mandatory like a COBRA. Because COBRA is nice. A lot of people don't utilize it, but being able to be pushed in the right direction during a very heightened time is paramount. And we're actually working with several financial institutions, about 30 companies we're talking to for the fourth quarter.
Have you
George,
tested your product? Sorry.
Have we tested our product?
Yes.
Yes, we have. We actually gave away up to 500 90-day subscriptions to get candidates to come on and go through the process. We have over 400 candidates on board right now going through because we launched April 6th, and we've successfully placed one candidate so far. So what we're looking to is to continue to spread the word that we hear, because where our success is that the candidates feel like they for once have a chance to have more control of the hiring process, better presentation, and they have more tools to be, presented correctly.
You mentioned that you were going to use these funds to market to the Hispanic community. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and what that means?
Absolutely. We actually have been using a lot of our marketing funds to just kind of blanket certain territories. But with these funds, I'd like to focus on SEO, Google Ads, digital marketing campaigns, and target Hispanic outlets, media outlets, to make sure that these communities know that we're here for them, to offer them that free 90-day subscription to help them get back on their feet. As a recruiter, I've placed over 600 candidates, and I'm used to working between general labor and C-level. So I think this is a great way to get people back on track.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, team. I'm Aaron Ortiz. I am the CEO of Latino here in the Bay Area. What we're here to talk about really is around what's been going around with the COVID-19 testing here in the Bay Area, and specifically testing as justice. What we're proposing is a pop-up testing event that really focuses on the aftercare of the Latinx residents and to decrease disparities. What's happening here in the East Bay, in particular Alameda County, is that a little over 50% of the Latino population a little over 50% of the folks that are testing positive are Latino here in Alameda County. And what we're proposing to do is really change the fragmented system. The solution for us has become to really put a pop-up Spanish language testing event together, built in with resources where we can navigate all the resources that we have here in Alameda County for the community. What that will essentially be really is having La Familia as a trusted messenger in the community have a COVID-19 testing site. We actually do these right now, and we have a hybrid model. They're by appointments, they're also by walk-ins, and they're also by drive-ins as well. And what we do is we provide culturally competent COVID-19 services. And what is happening is we're providing a follow-up. So that follow-up really consists of a promotor model that really follows up with the individual after they've tested positive here in Alameda County. Yeah?
Yeah, so very quickly, each of these events costs about $35,000, and we're able to leverage over half of it. So what that means is that to do additional events this fiscal year, there is a funding gap of about $30,000. I will pause things because we're over time, but there is a considerable bang for your buck with that $30,000.
If I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on the event itself. I mean, during the COVID crisis, during the pandemic, with social distancing, other guidelines in place, how do you plan to pull off a, quote unquote event in this type of an atmosphere?
Yeah, it's really being really intentional and using a lot of physical space. So the drive-in model is pretty self-contained, so you don't have a lot of additional exposure on the drive-in model. The walk-in model, it's about keeping the tents really far apart. It's about being really thoughtful about the number of service providers at any one station, the number of families at any one station. So it's doable. It just takes a lot of space.
Gosh, thank you. Danielle? Reyes?
I'll pass it on to Ephraim.
My question for you is this: can you go back to the pricing model that you were talking about a moment ago?
Yeah, Aaron, do you want me to talk more?
Yeah, go for it.
Do you want me to dig into it or?
Yes, please. I want to get a better feel for it because I feel like we didn't really understand.
Yeah. So the thing is largely the costs come from any venue and permits, but it largely comes from medical personnel time, right? Which is like not cheap per hour. And so if you're doing a big event, you need, 10 plus registered nurses. Mm-hmm. So per hour for 2 days for 8 hours a day is a considerable cost. And then the way we built the Promotora model is it is a short-term 2-week full-time opportunity at $25 and $30 an hour. We know that there are families in our community that need these job opportunities. They're well positioned. They know the resources. They're trusted messengers. But when you do 10 of those at $25 hour at 80 hours each, that adds up pretty quickly. So those are the biggest building blocks of this $35,000 per event model.
Very good. Let me pass it on to one of my other colleagues.
In terms of the COVID testing, in terms of the testing, are the results immediate, or how long does it take for families to know the results?
The results, the turnaround time are between 2 to 3 days. So we use Avalon Labs here in Alameda County. And really what takes time is not the lab to get back to us, because that happens within 24 hours or less. What takes time really is the callbacks. We actually really run a COVID-19 testing site, and we test about 500 people a day. So it's not the line of work that we're in. We're not primarily in FQHC, but because nobody came, the cavalry wasn't coming, it took local leaders to put this together, and we partnered with the fire department to do it. So we're testing up to 500 people a day. So when you have 5% positivity rate, it takes quite a few calls, to call about 300 or 400 people back. And then the folks that test positive or members of the community that test positive, a nurse will call them back so they can have somebody with that level of expertise to cover any triaging they may need to do to an FQHC or federally qualified health center or hospital.
Yeah, and to be very brief, the reason that this is important, even though we have the regular testing site, is that we're just simply not seeing the families that we know need to get tested. So to have these very Spanish language focused, good outreach, and then we use it as a strong education opportunity. So what does it mean to quarantine until you get your test results back, right? That's the reason you need to put the spotlight. And that's what we're proposing to do.
Yeah, and the other part, team, is a lot of people, it kind of gets me when folks are wondering why so many Latinos are testing positive. We're the backbone of this economy. What's happening right now is that Latinos need this for employment. They need it for work. That's why we're seeing a lot of folks test positive as well. And then they also come back after 14 days and after that time period of quarantining and isolation, and they need another say that they're negative, so they could take it back to the employer. So for us, it's not we are the science, we have the data that shows why this is happening with the Latino community, at least here in the East Bay. So there's a lot of information that's coming out of this. I think that the second piece to this is really getting the analytics. What are we finding out? What is the prevalence? What is the social determinants? So that will be the latter stage of what happens with this.
It hurts. It hurts when we see a family broken because LGBT parenting is not an option. It hurts when we see a young man turned into a violent partner because of toxic masculinity. It also hurts when the gender identity of a trans person is denied because of transphobia. My name is Betty Gabriela Rodriguez, and I am the founder and chair of Amazona Foundation, a nonprofit organization where I not only helped transform those pains into a safe and welcoming space for people of all genders and sexual diversities, but also where I built a community for Hispanics to thrive. We host monthly gatherings to reflect on gender equality while expanding our professional network. And we also offer annual training for leadership and entrepreneurship for Hispanic immigrant women. And on top of that, we volunteer for allied organizations once a year. Almost 300 people have trusted me to find their voices in our space. And more than 7,000 have been reached through our digital content. Because Amazona Foundation is our voice and nuestro poder. We're focusing right now on women's political leadership because one of the main problems that we see during the pandemic is that women were not at the table where crucial decisions were made. Also, we are hosting the sessions with women entrepreneurs because we know that women are more vulnerable to COVID economic effects. And we continue to bring our community together because we know that social isolation is also harder for immigrant mental health. So we fight COVID by supporting women's leadership, women's agency, and building resilience among Hispanic immigrants. So today, I kindly ask you to be the reason our community feels welcome, seen, heard, and supported. Because even when we find our voices, we still need someone to hear us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your pitch. Could you elaborate a little bit on if you were provided, if you won this pitch, what you would use the funds for?
So we will, for the entrepreneurs part, we will hire personal branding specialists so they can develop their brands a little bit better because we have been helping them to develop their business models. And we're the type of organization who are persisting on this idea of incorporating this business. Just to give you an example, the previous entrepreneur group that we had last year, 60% of them incorporated their businesses within the first year, which is a huge accomplishment considering that they had at least between 2 or 3 years operating without being incorporated. And I know you coming from the corporate sector can definitely understand how important it is to build your record, to be close to the institution. So that's a part for the entrepreneurs, and also to finance the digital content, to make us known and known our work so we can reach out to more people. For the leadership program, we already have the 20 participants, and this time we're hosting the training with Running Start, which is a local organization training young women to run for office.
Thank you. Danielle?
I was going to ask you about partnerships, and given that now everything is virtual or remote, how successful have you been in making that transition to keep working with people remotely?
So the beginning was kind of hard, but because we already had a component through digital platforms where we have our monthly newsletter, and then we have monthly interviews through Instagram Live. so we can interact with the people who are not in the States, actually. It was difficult at the beginning, but now we're hosting our monthly events through those platforms, and it's challenging to engage them because the human connection and the human interaction that you have, all that magic when we are all together, you don't have it anymore. But we have been partnering with different organizations such as the Pan American Development Fund, Running Start, and some individuals, entrepreneurs, or influencers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Milena Lopez-Sotelo, and I, along with Lindsay Hughes, are Cora, empowering holistic health and wellness for the Black and Latinx community, driven by AI. So what's the problem? The world is transitioning into a new normal, while our Black and Latinx communities continue to be left out, further amplifying an already very tragic gap in health outcomes. In order to learn more about our problem and the intersection between COVID and our community, the first thing we did was go to Google. We searched online trends and learned that mass case as a term came up around, increased 900% from December to April. Very astonishing, obviously. The second thing we did was take that fact and go to our communities and interview and watch the behavior of 25 community and non-community members around their mask behavior. What we learned is that people are storing their masks wrong. The best solution out there right now that exists is a brown paper bag that helps the mask breathe and also keep it as sanitary as possible. We see there's a hole in the mask accessories market, and we see this as an opportunity to fill it. Our short-term solution is to take advantage of the fact that the next health accessory is an environmentally friendly sanitary mask case. But we don't strive to be a mask case company in the long term. With our data-centered approach, we want to not just be a mask case company, but we want to be a smart health and wellness brand for people like us, by using AI and algorithms to produce recommended products. We believe that our direct competitors are Etsy, small business owners, and Amazon, small business owners, but we think that our competitive advantages, such as centered around diversity and inclusion, secondly, innovation, and thirdly, our long-term vision of producing recommended products based on gathering our data inputs and using AI to create products that serve our community and expand on those services. Our target market are millennial, Black, and Latinx people, those that are health-conscious individuals, that they're frustrated with unrelatable healthcare accessories that don't speak to their values and goals. For example, I watched my dad, who is a construction worker, go to work and worry about is his mask clean or not while it's in the car and while he's not at work, and struggle to understand the implications of putting it back on. So we think by targeting this market and becoming customer obsessed, we can really produce the right health and wellness products now and in the future. Our short-term projected margins are $5 to manufacture the mask in itself, assuming it's about a fabric made of bamboo material. And based on products that our community has purchased in the past, we're thinking about $20 for the price. That leaves us at about a $15 margin. The entire health market that we're operating in is $55 billion. We think ours is about 44% of that number, so about $24 billion, considering that we want to move into the digital healthcare space. Our future roadmap is to build our actual prototype. We have it designed, and to actually be able to produce 50 products with 50 of our early adopters. For that to occur, we would need about $5,000 to manufacture and test that actual prototype, launch and market, and to assess our next vertical. So choose curas para hoy y curas para mañana. Thank you. I'll take your questions.
Great, thank you. Your presentation on video was very thorough. One of the things I needed clarity on was, is the prototype development then a case or a mask?
It is an actual case. It is not a mask.
Okay.
There's already a plethora of masks out there.
Very good. This is Efrain. I have a question for you. What is your thought for how you're going to conduct your quality control and testing?
Yes, that's a good question. So my co-founder has a background in retail and exactly that. So we complement each other very well. The first thing we're going to do is assess the actual manufacturing company that produces our actual cloth cases and have very strict standards around the quality control. And I'm confident that our co-founder, who has background as Victoria's Secret retail and operations, to be able to do that.
Thank you. Danielle Campos.
I have no questions. I'll move it over to Jorge.
Yeah, I have no questions. Great presentation.
None for me as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Yes.
Thank you.
So hello, everyone. My name is Paula Escobar, and I'm a high school junior from San Jose, California. The project I'm presenting to you today is called Ambition Z, which is a project dedicated to promoting tertiary education and allowing low-income youth the opportunity to access higher education. So to provide some context, I'm a school board, student governing board member for my school district, and I'm also a youth commissioner for the city of San Jose. In these positions, I have seen how youth are being deprived of resources that allow them to achieve higher education. The city has been working on giving hotspots to certain low-income neighborhoods. However, these are temporary, and the only resource students have in technology are through the school districts, and school districts are not going to be able to hand these out once we get back into school, and there's still going to be a further stray on both an achievement and technological gap. This is a really big issue because this means that students can't participate in their extracurricular activities, and we see that the dropout rates are projected to increase by 2 to 9% in the upcoming years due to the pandemic. And we also see that this is a race issue. We see that Hispanic and Black students make up 52% of low-income students, and that there's not enough counseling services within school districts. In order to alleviate this issue, Ambition Z provides technological resources such as tablets and laptops to students of color and low-income students. Students will also be able to be connected with a mentor who's either a university or graduate student so that they can either plan their own community-based projects, such as a food drive, or that they can maybe lobby their politicians for a certain issue that they're passionate about, or simply get feedback on college applications. This is really personal to me because I was a CHCI R2L alumni. However, all these programs and things I participated in, I had to research myself. And coming from a low-income, a single-family household, this has been really a steep struggle for me, and I don't want this to be a problem for future generations to have.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I'll start off the questions. So who would you partner or collaborate with so that you could do both the assessment and distribution of tablets, et cetera?
So we'd work with, again, the school districts and some grassroots organizations so we could have access to both their alumni network, their work network, and alongside this, we'd also get access to their student pipelines. There's a lot of, and we'd start with a regional basis. So in this case, Eastside San Jose, which is a low-income neighborhood, and only has temporary access to technology barriers, only has temporary access to technology. And working with this, we'll be able to get some corporate sponsorships in order to continue funding it. And once I graduate the university, I'll be able to maintain contact with these organizations. Graduate high school, I can maintain contact with these organizations and continue organizing different branches and expand it to maybe Oakland and other parts of the greater Bay Area.
Thanks.
Very good.
Next judge.
Thank you. My question for you is, tell me a little bit more about how you can create a self-sustainable endeavor here. You mentioned the use of corporations, but is there a way to actually monetize this in such a manner that you can carry it forward?
Yeah, so by philanthropy and by partnering with, again, corporations, we're able to kind of make these connections and make a greater kind of we can get a greater kind of alumni network. And as these students grow up, they'll be able to know about these programs. And as we reach out to more organizations and more possible sponsorships, we can receive grants, funds, in order to keep this program being sustained. And again, just work with the pre-existing nonprofits, the people who have been working in the front line and know the issues firsthand. So they'll be able to manage things, and we'll be able to collaborate. And this can be a community-based project that will be self-sustainable.
Very good. Danielle Campos.
Can you talk about some of those community-based organizations out there? I mean, I know there's a lot of organizations that are doing student advising and college advising currently. And if you're in San Jose, are there networks you're already working with to help provide those support services?
So there's some programs about student empowerment personally, but not about achieving higher education or accessing certain resources outside of that. We have organizations such as SIRENS, which stands for Services and Immigration Networks. And then we also have Californians for Justice. We work with Eastside Union High School District to promote civic engagement within youth and push them to advocate in front of school boards. And we also have the National Center for Youth Law, which works with juvenile youth and people who are at risk of entering probation or into juvenile justice systems. And I have personal connections with all of these because I'm a county juvenile justice commissioner, and I'm also part of Californians for Justice. So I already have these connections, and I'm able to make further outreach to them and see what their available networks are.
That's great. Great network. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nestor. I'm the CEO of Seago. And a couple of years back, I was surprisingly frustrated by how difficult it was for some of my family members to get auto insurance, particularly my aunt, my tia Celia. She, even though she had a U.S. license, had never had an accident, owned her car, seemed like a great customer, she still struggled to get insurance online, struggled to get insurance even over the phone, ended up having to go to a brick and mortar store where not only did she have a terrible experience, but she ended up paying a bunch of extra fees. And that seemed wrong to me. And I guess ultimately what I came to understand is that in the U.S., you have most of the Latinx and Latino population grouped into something called non-standard risk. And for my aunt, it was because she was buying a state minimum limit liability auto insurance, basically the cheapest auto insurance you can buy to drive legally, which is what most of the Latino market is buying. But that's primarily distributed through brick and mortar and very difficult to get online. And so that's why I founded Seago. And so Seago's platform allows customers to access state minimum limit liability auto insurance directly from their phone in English or Spanish. And particularly today with COVID and a lot of these businesses being disrupted and closed down for a lot of time, we've seen an uptick in our users. We've been consistently growing since March. And what we've also seen is by going, and not only can we lower the cost by having a tech platform rather than a brick and mortar storefront, so we can pass those cost savings on to the customer, but we can also capture a lot more data, which not only will help us price more effectively, but we'll also be able to build a better experience and a better product for them. There's 4 of us working on this full time. We have just over 100 customers in our pilot and have done over $100,000 in premiums through our brokerage business. And now we're preparing to launch our own proprietary auto insurance product in Texas next year. We see auto insurance as the wedge into servicing all the insurance needs for this customer and really looking towards things like homeowners and towards 2030 when most new home buyers in the U.S. will be Latino. We'd love to answer any questions you might have.
I'll pass to Efran.
Thank you. My question for you, actually, there's something that I'm not very clear on. If it sounds like you're telling me that the auto insurance that the marketplace is currently getting is the cheapest form of insurance. In other words, the underwriting is not at a very high standard criteria. Can you explain a little bit to me more about the difference between the standard that you're going to put out in the marketplace and what they're currently buying?
Yeah, so I would separate the standards on the underwriting and the price of the insurance as I described it. The reason it's the cheapest insurance possible to buy is because it's the basic coverage, the state mandated coverage. So you can't legally drive with less coverage. So that's why it's the cheapest insurance. In terms of the underwriting standards today, you're largely using static data points that aren't that valuable, like zip code, driver class, which is age, marital status, and gender, and like miles driven. And that's decent, but it's not the whole picture. And so the idea is that we're really going to use more data to better understand things like loss ratios on cash payments or on foreign ID by type, for example.
Thank you. Daniela Campos.
I'll either pass it to Jorge or Sebastian. I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I kind of got a question. I just wanted to see how your venture would how it would impact our Latino or Latinx community right now as it relates to COVID-19 specifically, though.
Yeah. So 100% of our customers are Spanish-speaking customers. Half of them have foreign IDs. A lot of them struggle to get insurance through traditional brick-and-mortar channels since everything shut down, particularly our customers in California and Texas, which is where we operate. And so we're very much focused on building a product to reach them in Spanish or in whatever language they prefer, but also to give them access through their phone, whereas they may have had to go to the brick and mortar. Like my aunt had to go in person to sign her paperwork and to get her car inspected. With Seego, customers are just signing on DocuSign, for example. And then in our app, we've built the function where customers can take pictures of their car if we need it. And we pull metadata so we know when and where it was taken. So we're basically pulling the human out of the loop and allowing customers to do this remotely rather than having to go through this analog, anachronistic process.
Thank you, Nestor. My question has to do with what would you use the funding for in your current model? It already seems like you're kind of at a competitive place in your business, and so I wonder how you would use these funds.
Great question. So I see this as part of just the bigger projects that we're working on over the next 8 weeks. So there's two primary things that we're working on. One is the build out of our technology. So we need to integrate our policy administration system in to launch our own product, which is basically just the core insurance system, which tracks all the insurance policies we issue. And so $5,000 would allow us to bring on a part-time engineer for those 2 months. The other thing we could use the $5,000 for, which is in parallel, is we're testing our marketing in Latino supermarkets, particularly a supermarket chain called Chavez Supermarkets in California. And so we're looking to run a pilot over 3 months with $5,000 there as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate the time.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ricardo. I am the founder of Riesgo. I think this time brings us together. It gives us the unique opportunity, given the crisis that our community faces. COVID-19 has demonstrated, has impacted our community in two ways. First, by disproportionately affecting the Latino community, where out of all the COVID deaths, 26% of them were Latinos. And second, by highlighting the challenges that are unique to our community. A lot of people say, COVID has brought light to these issues. And these are issues that we already knew about, maybe people that weren't paying attention. But, we've known that the Latino community has had a 51% uninsured rate for a while. This isn't new to us. But what is new is the different challenges that we can face and the way that we are approaching them. And that is what this crisis presents as this opportunity. There are four basic challenges for the Latino community. First, that we own fewer assets than our other minority counterparts. Second, that our student loan burden is going up about 5% since 2008. And third, the financial literacy rate amongst our community is low. I think at a double than average predatory loans are being targeted for Latinos. And fourth, we have fewer short-term and long-term savings. And so what we want to propose with Riesgo is to incorporate a way to give people a personal risk management tool and help them identify these risks in their life. If there's one thing that COVID has taught us, it's that everything in life is about risk. And what we can do from an individual perspective and a societal perspective is improve the way that we plan for risk. And so with Riesgo, we want to use machine learning technology and artificial intelligence to create a risk profile for people that can simply go on and start planning for those risks and improve their position and ultimately the position of the Hispanic community.
Great. I'll ask the first question. Can you tell us a little bit more about what a risk profile would look like?
Sure. So we want to incorporate different data points, different aspects about your life, how many kids you have, what your annual income is, the type of life you want to live when you retire. And with this risk profile, with all these data points that you give to the AI, they will be able to produce a risk profile that then will tell you things about how much you should have saved up. What you need in order for your income to be sustained should a parent not be there. Things like that. And we want to incorporate all of this together and make it very accessible. Because I think the research shows from Gallup that when we have access to these instruments, to retirement savings account, we use them on average higher than other groups.
Thank you. This is Efrain. My question for you is actually pertaining more towards should you win the pitch competition, can you be a little bit more specific for the use of the funds?
Yes, I think right now we are in an exploratory phase. We're in the nascent stages of all of this. And so I think that using these funds, you have the unique opportunity to propel these ideas because we already see companies like Lemonade and Betterment incorporating AI and machine learning to benefit their clients. So why not create something that can benefit our entire community? So I think that the use of those funds will be directly towards increasing that exposure and propelling this idea.
Thank you. Danielle Campos.
Ricardo, you mentioned financial literacy and education and the tools. Are you working with, or have you done an assessment of what types of programs are already out there to help build, financial stability in the continuum for Latino families? Are there models that you've looking to, maybe bring into this new program or platform?
Yes, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of great work that a lot of organizations across the country are doing. The only problem is the exposure that they have and the recognition. It's often not the lack of resource, but the lack of awareness to these resources. And so what we hope to do is partner with local organizations, with nationwide organizations, and build this brand so that people are not only able to access these resources, but aware that they exist.
Great. Go ahead.
I have no questions.
I have one quick question. Very quickly, who is your target demographic for this inside of the Latino community? Or age range, I guess you could say.
Sure. So I think being an app and being with the social media, we have a new generation. And so I think initially starting off with the younger generation, but then we hope to have Latinos use this as common as Facebook.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentations from all our panelists and for our young change makers, our entrepreneurs, our nonprofit leaders. I really enjoyed hearing about the programs and the innovations that you're creating to help our communities really recover from the crisis that we've been enduring. So appreciate your thoughtfulness and the hard work, and best of luck in your future endeavors, because I know it'll be bright. Thank you.
Hey, leaders, this is Jorge Lopez again. Just wanted to say that this was a very exciting contest to judge. You guys all had great ideas, great innovation, and I just look forward to seeing all your future ideas and how impactful everything that you guys have done in our communities and will continue to do. So very excited about our future and everything that you guys are doing for our community. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for what you're doing and what you're doing day in and day out. So great job, everybody.
What a bunch of innovators. That was really exciting, and I'm so grateful to have been a part of this. If it was up to us, I'm sure I can speak on behalf of the judges. You guys have already won. We'd give you guys each the winnings for this pitch competition. But I'm so excited, as has been said here, for our future and for the innovation that's coming from our community. I feel like this is just the tip of the iceberg. So congratulations for being here and for having partook in this competition, and we're looking forward to hearing about your continued success.
Hi again. I want to thank everybody for being so thoughtful, so passionate, and really putting such an amazing pitch together. You've made my job as a judge much more dull. All really one of you presenting such a strong idea. We are in very good hands if we have creative, innovative minds like yours out there trying to needs and issues of our community. So thank you. I wish you the best of luck.
And for me, I want to say thank you. Thank you to all the contestants, or should I say entrepreneurs, because each one of you is a leader in your own right, taking this chance, putting out your vision, putting out your passion. And let me tell you, for me, it's been inspirational. I applaud all of your efforts. Second, I also want to let you know and ask you to visit mbda.gov because we are celebrating Minority Enterprise Development Week. We have incredible entrepreneurs that you can learn from, seasoned professionals, and much of what you have, I can see you becoming them in the immediate future. And last but not least, let me thank CHCI for putting us together and bringing this pitch competition to fruition. I think it's been a wonderful inaugural pitch competition and hope that we can do it again.
All right. Well, it's been a tremendous competition thus far. And as we wait for the judges to deliberate and let us know the winning pitches, I wanted to take a moment for our viewers to hear from a thought leader, an expert on the experiences Latinos have addressing the wealth gap and how, as a maker, all of you out there as well can build more opportunity, whether that's for wealth or impact or all of the above. So what I want to do is invite my good friend, Marcos Gonzalez, who's founder and managing partner of Vamos Ventures, to join me here for just a quick chat. Marcos is a private equity, venture, and angel investor, having invested in many companies in the US and abroad. And he's also an entrepreneur. He co-founded a tech company in Boston during the first internet wave of the 90s. Welcome, Marcos. How you doing?
Thank you very much, Marco. I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me here today.
Good, good. Glad to have you. My tocayo, for those of you who are familiar with the term. Let's start up. Let's find out what brought you into this field of investing and supporting Latino-inspired and owned ventures. What got you started with Vamos?
You bet, Marco. I think it was the connection of various points in my life. One of the maybe three pillars. First pillar is just kind of where I was born and raised, and I was born in Los Angeles and raised in a very Mexican neighborhood. My parents are from Mexico. They're immigrants to this country, like maybe many of your listeners right now. And so I grew up with a very strong identity and feeling for the community, number one. Number two, I had the opportunity to get into the business world. And And I ended up going to business school and then working at a large strategy consulting firm and then getting into something called private equity. And private equity is investing in private companies. And I did a lot of that in the US and Latin America. And that's where I learned the business and the investment experience. And that's the second pillar. And the third one was when I started a tech company in Boston, and I learned that to me, the future really was in technology. And if you think about the future of the way we live and work, and even the future doors to the middle class, it's increasingly through technology or technology-related businesses. And so these three things, my upbringing, my experience in business school and in business, and then specifically with technology, doing a startup in Boston, that really kind of came together. And I guess if there was a fourth, I'd say that I hit a point in my life where I needed to bring these together in a meaningful way, so that I would have something meaningful, not only from a professional, but also a personal way. And so that was the birth of Vamos Ventures. And Vamos Ventures is an investment fund in the technology space that focuses on Latino and Latina tech entrepreneurs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so why do you think an event like this pitch competition is important? What kind of impact do you think that has both in the community and in this space, in this field?
Yeah, these pitch events happen all the time, and I think it's great. And unfortunately, we don't see a lot of Latino and Latina, folks pitching. They either don't know where, they don't get invited, they don't make the cut, for a variety of reasons. And many times it's not about meritocracy, it's about who you know. So having these platforms, and Marco, I think what you're doing with CHCI and your team is doing with it, and putting these companies on a platform like this is a great thing. And because it gives them visibility, gives them practice, and it gives exposure to them and to your audience, so that your audience can hear what's going on, different ideas, what's really possible through technology, who are these folks, what are they doing, how do I engage, etc. So I think on both sides it's very important, but mostly for the entrepreneurs and even for the judges. For the judges is a good thing to get out there, listen, and give constructive feedback. And I'll tell you, as an investor myself, writing a check to an entrepreneur is important, but just as important is recognizing the entrepreneur. Letting them know you see them, giving them real feedback, making connections for him or her, and supporting them. That's also super important, especially if you're a Latino investor. It would be horrible, and I've been there, where as an entrepreneur, I call on a Latino investor and I get, crickets back, nothing. And so that's a tough thing. So I think what you're doing is really important, and we should see a lot more of that, hopefully, in the future.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, and to your point, I mean, certainly one of the things we hope, because I've seen it happen before, right, is that, even in the competition tonight, we're going to select some winners, right? And by definition, that means some folks are not necessarily going to be awarded some funding here, but it's possible that as a result of presenting here, someone else watching, someone else participating in our conference, someone else in the broader CHCI network takes an interest in what they're doing, or finds that their project and their business, their nonprofit is aligned with their efforts, and they might be able to reach out. And we're certainly happy to facilitate that connection if that is something that folks have interest in. And the other piece I've found right, and the other piece I found that's useful, that I remember from participating in some of these in the past is, and similar type of models in the nonprofit world, is it also forces, in a good way, the entrepreneur, the leader, to kind of hone and refine their pitch, right? It gives them an opportunity to really sort of drill down and sort of say, what's the core, what's the succinct message of our work, what's our value add, what's our outcome, et cetera, right? And so that's a good practice for them. Whenever they go out and seek funding, whenever they go out and try to get support, they've now got sort of, in fact, even a presentation that they can share and use, and it becomes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Marco, you said two things that are really important. The first one is that anybody in your audience that view these pitches, if they have an idea or a contact that could benefit from a service or somehow collaborate with them, be a pilot client, be a partner to test something out, that is another thing that is equally as important as money. So anybody listening now that saw something, heard something that you think is interesting, and you know someone or you yourself can be a collaborator or a testing ground or a lab for them, do it. That's super valuable, super important. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the practice for the entrepreneurs. This is a baseball game, right? This is not a one shot and you're done. This is 9 innings. This is 3 at bats every inning. You're going to get plenty of shots, but you got to take the swings and you got to practice and you got to keep going back. The one thing that folks should know that are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs that I want folks to remember is investors are busy. Investors see 10 pitches a day, every day. And unfortunately, it's very hard to take some time, sit down and say, well, tell me about this again and give me all the detail. That doesn't happen. It's like, what's the idea? What's the value add? What's the value proposition? If you can't articulate that, in 15, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds max, that's a problem. That's a problem. Yeah. Go back, figure it out, and how do you distill it? And that's the first thing you got to be able to do. So these events, I think, are helpful in that sense. But even outside of this, for the entrepreneurs in the audience, super important.
That's great. That's a great point. And one of the things that occurs to me is sort of, obviously we're doing this as part of our leadership conference, which of course, in many ways, at least in Washington, kind of kicks off Hispanic Heritage Month. And we very deliberately, obviously, chose to focus on entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs and leaders who are both trying to focus on COVID-19 recovery, which is absolutely crucial in our community, but who in general have a focus on engaging, benefiting, supporting, serving, if you will, the Hispanic community. And so I wonder what your thoughts are about, and if that's part of the work at Vamos, that eye towards which I find often that there's a social, if you will, component, even to the for-profit ventures. And in fact, I love a quote that someone once told me, which was that basically, in their eyes, every entrepreneur of color is almost by definition a social entrepreneur, because almost without exception, no matter how much they want to build a Fortune 500 multinational gigantic conglomerate, almost without exception, they also sort of say, and I want to make the world better. And at minimum, I want to make my community better, right? I'm not just going to find the best way to exploit my community and sell them, lousy products. I want to make at least my workers' lives better, if not have a product or a solution that benefits the community as I try to build a business, right? And I wonder if you see that, and if that's something that's any kind of a trend in our community.
Yeah, absolutely, Marco. Great points. I'll just start with the first thing you said, which is social entrepreneurship. In some quarters, that's kind of looked down upon. I embrace. I think being an entrepreneur and adding the social piece to it is a badge of honor, and it's something that represents or reflects our responsibilities as citizens. Forget about the Latino or the African American or the women. As citizens, it's part of our responsibility to be managing, deploying, and supporting the development of our society. So I think that's number one. And I think, so I call myself, social impact fund, and I invest in founders of color that are social entrepreneurs. They can call themselves whatever they want. You can call me whatever you want. That's my mindset. That's the values that I think we reflect. So that's number one. When it comes to folks that, founders of color, what we see is they disproportionately hire more people of color in different backgrounds. They engaged in their community. If they are successful, they help other people in their community that look like them get up the ladder. They become angel investors. They become philanthropists, and they pursue and support areas and initiatives that are important to the community. All the things that you said, we see. And so it really is a flywheel, to use a buzzword that's thrown a lot around in the VC world. It is a flywheel. That's why venture capital and technology is different than private equity or other kinds of investing. Because you invest in somebody here who's young, and in 5 years, 8 years, whatever it is, they could be a meaningful philanthropist. And they don't stop there. They don't go retire or pass in 5 years. They have another 4 companies in them. And they keep hiring, they keep being a role model, they keep being a template for other aspiring entrepreneurs. In the quote unquote brick and mortar world, you're investing in folks that are older. They're going to grow a big company. Eventually they'll get out and they're going to go retire, buy an island and forget about everything and go golf. And that's okay. But this is the area the venture space, the technology space, where we're converting consumers, which is what we are, we're huge consumers, to builders, to owners, to innovators and leaders. And we're doing it when you're young. And that's powerful. And that's going to have a lot of, exponential impact for us in the business world and in our communities. So that's a beautiful thing. And so that's why I'm in it. And I'm glad to see CHCI doing this. I'm glad that you're, leading this. Congratulations for taking this on and highlighting these entrepreneurs and these judges.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for your leadership here tonight, participating with us, but your leadership in this field, right, and helping to really raise voices and to drive dollars, to drive actual resources to our entrepreneurs. So thanks so much for being here with us tonight. I'm actually hearing that our judges are ready. We've got our deliberations have been done. So thanks so much, Marcos, for being here with us tonight. And again, we look forward to continuing to work with you and to hear about the great work that you're doing in this space.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Marco. Take care.
All right, take it easy. All right, friends, and so now I've gotten the word from our judges. They've deliberated and they've selected winners for our categories. It was a stiff competition. They want to make sure that you all know that all of the presentations were outstanding, and they wish you all luck. And as we mentioned, we at CCI really hope that all of these efforts go forward in some way, shape, or form, and that folks, you're able to garner the support you need in order to have that impact and to have the success. And so now, without further ado, the winners for our inaugural 2020 CHCI pitch competition are, in the entrepreneur category, Inti Malena, led by Wendy Ramirez and Jacqueline Rodriguez. In the nonprofit category, La Familia, led by Jennifer Ellis and Aaron Ortiz. And in the young changemakers category, we have Ambition Z, led by Paula Escobar. La Familia in the nonprofit, and Ambition Z in the young changemakers categories. Congratulations to all our winning teams. Best of luck to you with your ventures, and we will obviously follow up to get you your resources and connect you to your supports. We hope you found this pitch competition to be as interesting and inspiring as I did. It's been the latest addition to a set of new experiences for our 2020 annual leadership conference, and by all accounts, it's been something successful. So I definitely think we'll be looking to see to repeat it in future years. So we invite you to stay connected with us and to support. And of course, we're not done. We've got one last full day of conference ahead of us tomorrow with another great slate of sessions, beginning with a plenary on supporting work-life balance for working mothers. Some breakout sessions, and then, of course, our closing plenary focused on the absolutely important issue in our community, which is immigration. Plan to join us virtually at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow for the morning welcome overview, and then we'll get into our programming. And, of course, don't forget to follow us and to continue your conversations and, in fact, continue to show your support for all the pitch competition contestants on Twitter and other social media using the hashtag CHCIHHM20. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for your support and participation. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.